Okay, thanks Krishna. Thanks for joining. So the agenda of this meeting is to record a SQL Monitor installation demo for an environment setup where you have availability groups. So in this demo, we are going to use a very simple setup. I have availability group set up on two replicas. So the server name prod replica 1 is acting as my primary replica, and there is another SQL server dr replica 1 which is acting as my dr replica. They are in different subnets. So assuming that this is my primary replica in one data center and this is my secondary replica on other data center, and using these two servers I have created an availability group. So let's start. We'll first open all the applications that we need during this demo. So I'm simply trying to open all of them. We need PowerShell ISE in administrative mode. So this is what I have opened here. I'll keep this open. This I don't need. I need Visual Studio Code for taking the latest from GitHub. So I have opened that, and it seems I am already inside my repository folder. So I will do git pull just to ensure that I have the latest from GitHub. Yep. And this is all correct. This I can ignore. And I'll connect to my local instance first. After local, I connect to my monitoring central server, and we will have a look on inventory table, which has the list of all the servers which are baselined by SQL Monitor. So in DBA database, select star from dbo.instance details ID. So this is a table which should be present on every SQL server which is baselined by SQL Monitor, as well as on the central server or main server also, inventory server or central server. So if I run this query, I get one row per server which is being monitored by SQL Monitor. So in my infra, I have two instances on demo host. Both of those instances are being monitored by SQL Monitor, and I created a installation demo that is already present on YouTube. Then this is my central server itself. Then I have one SQL server where I do all kinds of POC, that is called SQL practice. I have one client machine, kind of client machine, where I am running all these scripts. You can assume it as a laptop or a desktop provided by organization. So it is the same machine where we are running this SSMS. You can see the name here. So on this machine, I have a total of 3 SQL Server instances installed on it. One default and 2 named instances. So I have baselined all three instances of SQL Server which are present on same host using SQL Monitor. So even that is present. Now out of these, since demo host is offline, so here you can see is available column for demo host instances is 0. That means these two instances are offline. Similarly, SQL practice and SQL prod 1 instances are also offline. So here we can see SQL practice is offline and SQL prod 1 is not even there. So that seems to be offline also. And finally, rest of them are working and online. So we can validate the same things on SQL Monitor dashboards. There we are. So this is the central dashboard through which we monitor all the servers in one go from single screen. So here in this second row, which says critical SQL Server instances offline, we can see the instances which are not reachable. Those are appearing here. So demo host is offline. That's why there are one line for each instance being shown as offline. Similarly, SQL practice and SQL prod. So pretty much these servers are offline in my lab environment right now. Cool. So let's go back and talk about the agenda of this meetings. The first replica that I have is prod replica 1. So I'll try to connect that one first. Prod replica 1. And I am able to successfully connect to that prod replica 1. The next replica, so if I expand this always on availability group node, on this I can see there is a availability group. If I expand this availability replicas, then we can verify that this availability group is built on top of 2 SQL Server instances, 2 replicas in short. This prod replica 1 is acting as a primary and the dr replica 1 is acting as secondary. I'll connect to dr replica 1 also, and I'm able to successfully do that thing. Plus we have a listener name also. So sometimes in my environment, people even want to connect to these servers or check the metrics of these servers by any name. They may want to check the metrics of the server by replica name or even by listener name. So that's why SQLMonitor setup for availability group is little bit complex than any other setup. So in this demo, this is what we are going to do. Now, before we start the demo, just to validate, we don't have any DBA database here at all on prod replica 1. Similarly, we don't have any DBA database here on dr replica 1 also. And we already verified that on my inventory server, that is SQLMonitor. When I run this query, select start from dbo.instance details, I don't see prod replica 1 or dr replica 1 at all. So in short, there is no issue. We can proceed for here. So how do we proceed for this purpose? First, we treat each replica as a standalone instance and we baseline that replica just like we do any standalone instance. So first we will baseline prod replica 1 instance, then we baseline dr replica 1 instance, and finally we add pointers for listener. So pointers for listener, yep. And in my case, in this availability group, the listener name is my2node.ag. My2node.ag. Let me connect to even this listener through SSMS, and I am able to successfully connect to that. So in short, I need to create 3, on my SQLMonitor infra, when I go to individual dashboards like this one. Let me close this and open it again. When I open any individual server level dashboard, in the drop down, my prod replica, my secondary replica, and the listener name, all 3 should be appearing here. That is the idea after baselining with SQLMonitor. So for that, first we will baseline prod replica, then we baseline the other replica, and finally we create some pointers so that we get even the listener name appearing in that drop down. That's the whole idea of this demo. So let's start. I already took latest for SQL Monitor from my GitHub, so that it is saying already up to date. Nothing, no action required here. Next thing, as we already saw in previous demos, I need to open my wrapper scripts. I already kept some of them in my private and work folder, so I'll choose the wrapper of work folder this time. There I am. So line number 8, SQL instance to baseline. Let's baseline the first replica, that is prod replica 1. I copy the name of server here, paste it here. What database name I want to use for keeping the matrix data? Well, there is no database, so first let's create a database. This time I want to create a database, say underscore admin utility. Or how many names do we have here, which we have used? So we have used admin utility and DBA. Let's create another name this time. SQL Monitor is perfectly capable of using any name for DBA database. So this time I will use DBA tools. On prod replica, new database. Let me give it name DBA tools. I make it simple recovery model and I execute. This is done. Let me do the same thing on DR. This is done. In short, if I refresh, now I should have a database called DBA tools. What about here? Here also. Since I just created this database, I will not have any object within this database. So we are good with this part. Let's go ahead and replace the DBA database name here, DBA tools. Now, in line number 12, I have to provide the local copy of DBA tools repository, which I downloaded from GitHub. On my system, it is already present on GitHub DBA tools. Let me just verify whether that location is really present or not. So I will say test path, and it is returning true. That means this folder is present. In my lab environment, my inventory server happens to be called SQL Monitor. As we already saw earlier, this is the instance, so I keep that as it is. Inventory database, initially we did a use DBA, so this happens to be my inventory database. Now line number 15, inventory database equals to DBA is correct value. This is the email ID of the people who should receive any job failure emails. And finally, I want to disable any other parameter passing. So let me do that. There we go. So idea here is keep the number of parameters that you are passing as minimum as possible. If any parameter value is required, this script will fail and it will give you messages that this other parameter is required or you need to take this kind of action. So I have disabled everything. I have simply passed the SQL instance to baseline, the DBA database on that instance, which will where we will collect all the metrics. Then DBA tools repository path locally on this server from wherever we are running the wrapper script. Inventory server, inventory database, and the people who should receive job failure emails. Let's go ahead and execute now. Okay, while this is running, Any questions you guys have, you can put your questions on chat, or even you can unmute yourself. So the script has started creating the objects which are required on our instance prod replica 1. Now we are installing Ola Hellengren scripts using PowerShell command install DBA maintenance solution. Okay, we are on step number 9. That means we are copying local copy of DBA tools repository to the remote machine which we are baselining. Now we have moved to step number 11, where we are copying we are creating performance data collection on the server. And it has moved on to further steps. So SQLMonitor setup has completed for the first replica, prod replica 1. It took around 158 seconds. Just to validate, let's refresh the databases node on prod replica 1 under DBA tools. Now we should have some tables created by SQLMonitor. One of these tables is DBA.instance details. I can check the top 1000 rows, and within that we will see one row for the current instance itself. Like we put in the wrapper script, this is the SQL instance name that we put there. These details are automatically fetched based on using query. This is the database that we mentioned, and this was the email ID that we said that for any job failure, these are the people who should receive failure emails. This is the current version of SQLMonitor that has been deployed on this server. The same information now will appear even on SQLMonitor server, or inventory server. So on inventory server earlier, that prod replica 1 was not there when we ran select start from dbo.instance details, but when I execute this now, we will start seeing this prod replica 1. So we can see SQL instance prod replica 1, host name, collector T-SQL job server, collector PowerShell job server, data destination is available equals to 1, and then the database name and other basic information regarding the server. So you can see some of my servers have old version of SQLMonitor deployed, and some of them have latest version. Okay. So at least I know in background things worked. Let me see if all the jobs are running fine or not. I can see all the jobs are showing succeeded in last run outcome. But still, I can do one more validation by right clicking on collect corresponding data and see view history. In the view history, open the latest execution. Starting from the bottom, we can start reading the logs. So first it is saying fetch details of DBA data collector. In the second entry, it is saying fetch details of the last imported file from this blah blah. And this way I don't see any error, rather I see messages suggesting that things are working fine. So in short, all the jobs are running fine on this server. Now, if I go to our inventory dashboards, on individual server dashboard, if I refresh the entire tab, browser tab, now I should start seeing my server, prod replica 1. Okay, it already got here. So I can see all the basic details of prod replica 1. If I expand this trend CPU utilization, I will even get the CPU utilization for that server. So here we can see now. Since we baselined just now, so we see the CPU utilization for past few minutes only. Cool. So in short, we have baselined our first replica of availability group. Now let's proceed for the second replica. The second replica name is dr replica 1. So I will copy the name. Go to my wrapper script one more time. Here on line number 8, which says parameter value SQL instance to baseline, I will provide dr replica 1. No other change is required here. DBA database is still the DBA tools. Just to verify, if I connect to prod dr replica 1 and refresh, the DBA database here is DBA tools. So that is absolutely correct here in line number 9. No change required, so I can go ahead and execute even this one. One key important point is that starting from the top, I print all the basic messages about the parameters or environment variables that we set, or what you can say assume. So it is expected that while you are deploying this SQLMonitor in your environment, kindly read at least a couple of times each and every line that is being thrown as an output by this wrapper script. Okay. In start of the first 4 lines, we are even giving a URL. So if you face any kind of challenge, try to go to that URL, and there is a high chance that the error that you are facing, I have documented that error and how to resolve that issue. So this is the URL that right now this pop-up is coming and going. It's little tough, but let this complete. Then I'll show you the URL also. If you guys have questions, kindly feel free to post it in messages. So last one took around 160 seconds. Probably this will also take around same time. Yeah, 126 seconds. Cool. The thing which I was saying earlier is, starting from the top, when you run this wrapper script, we print some output messages. So you can see we are working on this dr replica 1 instance SQL Server instance. We are deploying this particular version of SQLMonitor, and for issues, you are supposed to visit this URL which is mentioned here. Once you visit this URL, you will end up on a discussion page on SQLMonitor GitHub repository. And on this discussion page, I have documented most common errors that I have received till now. So there is a high chance you will find your errors there. Then we are displaying all other kinds of messages like what version and what SQL Server services and all those things, or everything is being displayed here as output. So kindly go through this whenever you are deploying this. Okay, so it seems that even the second replica of availability group has been baselined. Let's validate the same thing like we did for prod replica 1. So I go to databases node, refresh it, then I expand DBA tools, which is my DBA database, and there is a table dbo.instance details. So let me select from that, and I can see one line entry here. Now even in our inventory server, when I run this select star from dbo.instance details, earlier dr replica 1 was not there, but now it is baseline, so that should appear here. There we go. So dr replica 1 and all the basic details like the prod replica 1, including the version of SQLMonitor here. Cool. Now I want to validate whether the jobs are running fine or not. So I can see here all the last execution of all the jobs is showing as succeeded. That means jobs are running fine. Getting back to the dashboard, earlier dr replica 1 was not appearing here, but when I refresh the browser tab, my dr replica 1 should appear here. There we go. So our dr replica 1 is appearing on this SQLMonitor dashboard. And if I expand this second row, CPU trend utilization, I can see that even CPU trend is appearing here. So in short, everything went well. No issues in deployment of SQLMonitor on these two replicas. Now the third requirement was that we want even the listener name to appear here. Reason being, there is a very high chance that your clients do not know about individual replicas or complex technology behind high availability. All they know is they need to make a connection to AG listener. So they are familiar with AG listener only. They don't know any other name. So when they come to these dashboards, what they look for is the listener name, which is not there here right now in my case. So let's do that also. In order to make that happen, we have to do some interesting things. The first thing we have to do is we have to add one entry, rather two entries here on central server for that listener name. Select star from, okay, this entry select is already there. Let me copy that. Where id.SQL instance. So what we have to do here is we have to select the two rows which are for the replicas, availability group replicas, and these are the two rows. So I choose the first row here, and then I choose the second row here. There we go. We filtered out the result from instance details only for the replicas that we have in this availability group. Now from here, I want to take out the column names, and create a comma separated list of it. No, that was earlier, it was good. Yeah, this is good for me. So here I will do the same thing. Insert dvo.instance details. I'll mention all the columns which we want to insert. And here also we want to do the same thing. Now, key point here is instead of keeping the same replica instance name here, earlier it was like this. So instead of keeping the replica names as SQL instance, now we want to replace that thing with AG listener name, which happens to be my 2-node AG. So within single quotes, I put this thing. This is what we want to populate in this central inventory server. Yep. So let's insert this, and it will fail. Okay, it succeeded. That is good thing. So the first thing happened. This was step number 1. So in step number 1 is add entries for AG listener per host. So we had 2 hosts, prod replica 1, prod replica 2. We added 2 entries in short. The second step is create listener, create linked server for AG listener on central server, on inventory server. So let's go ahead and create a listener here. Linked server. So expand linked servers. Okay. Oh, wrong server. It should be on inventory server. So server objects, linked server. I will simply script out my prod replica, modify the name, replace the login password. Password for Grafana, login is Grafana, and then I can execute this. There I go. Now if I refresh this, I can see there is a linked server with the listener name, my 2-node AG. I can expand it to see whether I am able to browse data here. Cool. So step 2 is also done. With step 2 completed, let me name this step. If I go to dashboard, and earlier in this dashboard listener was not appearing. If I refresh this tab, now my listener name should start appearing here. There we go, my 2-node AG. Of course it will not work. Once I select this, things may not work, but at least with step 2 we are able to get we are able to get the data here. Okay, even we are getting the data. That's awesome. So replica 1. Yeah, data is not changing. So when we change the host, it's not changing. So now we have to make sure of this part. Now getting to step number 3. Create link servers on each replica for other replica. That means on prod replica 1, linked server for dr replica 1. Similarly, on dr replica 1, linked server for prod replica 1. This is what we have to do. So I go to SQLMonitor and we have 2 link servers. I will simply script them out. dr replica 1, script it out. Where is prod replica 1? Yeah, here it is. Okay. So on prod replica 1, we have to create link server for dr replica 1. So I will change this to dr replica. Change the connection to dr replica 1. Oh, sorry. The link server name is dr replica. So I need to connect to prod replica 1. There we go. Replace the password for username Grafana here and execute. Similarly, when the links connect to the other instance, that is dr replica 1, and create a linked server for prod replica. Awesome. That was step number 3. Now in step number 4, and which is final one, we have to modify views and enable linked server queries. So let's start with the prod replica. If I go to prod replica under DBA tools database, I go to views. I have about 4 views. I have to modify only the first 3 views, which collect information at the operating system level. So let's script them all together. View Object Explorer, views, this, and this. There I am. Alter. Okay. And here I have to enable this line. Enable these 2 lines. We have to replace the server name. So we are on prod replica. That means we have to put dr replica here. Dr replica 1 dot database name is dba tools dot dbo dot disk space. This one is done. I'll copy this much portion and we'll go to next view. Here also alter view, enable this line, enable these 2 lines, ensure that the server name is correct here, server and database name. So I pasted the details here. Similarly, we have to do the modification on 3rd view. Enable this CT line, enable these 2 lines, and change the link server plus database name. I think we are good to execute this. There we go. So changes on one server is done. Let's repeat the same changes on other servers. Uncomment this line, uncomment these two lines, replace this link server name with other replica name, prod replica 1. Database name is DBA tools. Copy this much so that we can reuse it in next view. There we go. Uncomment this, and replace the link server and database name and execute. Okay, we have to put alter here everywhere. Cool. So in short, we have done all the changes which are required. The first change was add entries for AG listener, and we have to add one entry per host name. Second thing we did is we created link server in the name of AG listener. Third thing, we created link servers on each replica for other replicas. And fourth, we updated the definition of views which gives operating system level metrics like disk space or OS processes or performance data counters, performance counters. Those three views, we updated them and added the link server of other replica. Pretty much that's the work we had to do. Now if we refresh this dashboard and choose our AG listener, I can choose the replica name here and refresh this, and this data will point out to that other host. So here we can see, if I expand it here, there we can see CPU information changing. Let me little bit zoom out. Yeah. Now if I change the host name, I am supposed to see the data CPU changing. Yeah, we can see CPU is changing. Hey Jitinder, I can hear you. So now if I go back to other host, I can see CPU changing. That means this dashboard is working just fine. I can choose whatever host I want to look, I want to observe the metrics for. So that's it. That's how we do baselining of availability group and all the replicas that are part of availability group. If you guys have any questions, you can post in messages. Otherwise, we are good to wrap up this meeting.
Sir, I am the only one, or some other guys are also there?
I think you are the only one left. Yep.
Okay. सर ये SQL Monitor आपने डेवलप किया ना सर टूल?
Yes, it is developed by me.
ओके सर, मेरे को एक चीज पूछनी थी. जैसे ये जो डैशबोर्ड है, ये जैसे हम अगर अपने मतलब टेस्टिंग करना चाहें अपने यहाँ पे, तो कैसे, क्या इसका क्या कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन रहेगा, कैसे करना रहेगा?
I already uploaded multiple videos on that. Probably you need to watch them. Okay, so go to ajaydwivedi.com, then YouTube, then SQL Monitor. Okay.
Okay. So everything is there.
Yeah. So in it, you will end up on this playlist. In this playlist, I have uploaded all videos, one video per scenario. So I have explained all the dashboard, and then starting from this one, you can see demo 01, demo 02, demo 03. So these are all demos, how to install this. So you can install SQL Monitor even on your personal laptop or desktop.
Okay. I will try. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Bye bye. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye, sir. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.